you asked the question of why me, or in my case, the shooting. I was shot 3 times, but it's kind of like, why couldn't that third bullet just have gone a little bit to the left or somewhere else, to where maybe I wouldn't be injured this badly. Even to be frank, the question like, well, why did I even live? It's kind of like, now I've got to live like this. Was it even worth it to live? So yeah, you deal with all those questions.
Something traumatic happens to you like this, and you have all these people telling you, you go here next, you go to inpatient rehab, and you're just kind of following the footsteps, and all of it's overwhelming and just completely, you don't even feel like you're in your own body.
I couldn't speak for 6 months. I was paralyzed, and so me having to deal with not being able to speak, writing stuff down, and I could hear myself speak, but nobody else could. And my question to God, to the Creator, why me? Why, if I would have did something different that day, then I would have been able to avoid that particular situation. And then I'm talking to myself like, God, if I'm a vegetable, don't allow me to stay, because I didn't want to be, me being an alpha male, I don't know if you know that terminology, me being a manly man, it was very humbling to me to be in this situation where I had to have to rely on people to take care of me. I know everybody goes through that. It's very a humbling experience for a man to have to do that. And not being in control of your body functions and just having to depend on somebody to come and clean you, turn you, this and that, etc., especially in a hospital setting.
Yeah, it was really rough. A lot of sadness, a lot of anger as well. But I would say mostly anxiety and kind of fear about how the rest of my life is going to be, what I'm going to be able to do, what I'm not going to be able to do, more importantly.
For most people, their feelings are all over the place. It's like sometimes I feel like maybe I got this. Sometimes I am so devastated I can't even figure out what to do in the next minute or two. So it's kind of a roller coaster of things. I fully expect at times people to feel very angry about this, or very sad about this, or sometimes even depressed about what is going on because I can't figure out how am I supposed to go from here. Like, where do I go? And it's like anything new in our life, particularly something that's traumatic, it's sometimes we're punting through it. It's like, what do I do? And so I think it's only natural for us to feel like there's a set path, or what does everybody else do? Or how is this supposed to go? And sometimes I look at somebody and I go, I don't know. How do you feel right now? And maybe that's all we need to figure out is, where are you at the moment?
I felt like I had put my family in a position, even though I wasn't the driver, I let that person drive my car and I was in that position. So it was a bit of guilt that like I have to get back to a normal life as quick as possible. And that became overwhelming because then I felt like I didn't know where to start or what to focus on or where to put my energy to really get going. So it was a combination of guilt and being overwhelmed. It kind of played hand in hand. So
very overwhelming when you look in the mirror and you see somebody different. I always tell people I talk to that scars mentally and physically only show where you've been, but it doesn't tell you where you're going. And me looking at my scars physically and mentally, because mental health is a somewhat of an escaped issue. We don't really deal with mental health a lot. But mental health is a very, very strong, I'll say, denominator when it comes to trying to rebuild who you are and also get back to where you used to be.
Going through all of these different things that I've got to try for the first time again and not being able to do it, whereas I wouldn't have given it a second thought before my injury. That was really hard on my mental state. Just because a lot of it was, how am I going to learn this one thing, let alone the millions of things that I haven't even thought about yet, right? So when you start thinking about that and taking it away from one thing at a time, it becomes very overwhelming. It's very easy to get in that state.
It's a lot of things. It's being overwhelmed about your internal feelings and the grief you feel about the loss of your body and your function, and thinking that your life can never be the same. It's the overwhelming feeling of people sort of treating you differently, and you not knowing how to deal with that because you don't want to be treated differently, but at the same time, you know that things are different and you need help. And it's a lot to take in, especially if you're used to being independent or you're used to kind of doing your own thing. And then all of the things that you have to reintegrate with in life, can really, yes, absolutely overwhelming.
I think we have to be careful with trying to assign what is right and what is wrong. Because in terms of feelings, there are no wrong feelings. And we need to give ourselves a little bit of slack for however we feel. All the way from, I am at my lowest point. I don't know if anybody else has felt this way. That's a pretty common feeling when we have a major change. And when we're talking about something significant like loss of our life as we knew it, or loss of a family member, loss of a job, anything that's big like that in our life, we can fully expect to feel a whole bunch of different stuff.
I think feeling lack of control is fairly common, especially after an injury, right? You have no lack of your control right now of your body. You often will feel like you have no lack of control of your emotions or your environment. And I think the first thing to do is start maybe making a list. It could be something really small, just how you would like your room to be set up, right? While you're in an inpatient stay, or when you do go home, what would you like your schedule to look like in terms of your activities of daily living or your self-care? So something small might make you feel like you're able to kind of gain some control back in your life. And hopefully that will trickle into other things.
And I remember waking up in the bed, and I remember my family was around me. I said, why is everybody here? So what y'all doing here? And I remember trying to move. I said, I just had an accident. So it came back on me strong, and I said, no, this can't be. I saw many a times where I tried to just push myself to get out of this situation. Like, you can do this, because your body is supposed to normally function when you think it. So me trying to just say, this ain't happening to me. This gotta be a dream. Me waking up some nights, some days like, no, this is not me. I can do this. And then realizing that my limbs are not cooperating with how I'm thinking.
Denial both has its pros and cons. When it comes to denial, sometimes it could actually be sort of the fire under your butt, right? It motivates you to work harder in therapy, not to give up. And other times I think it can work against you, both physically and emotionally. For example, if you say, I don't need to do my weight shifts, that can result in a pressure wound that can't be resolved immediately. Or if you're saying, you know what, I'm A-okay, and you go about your day and you let those emotions build up and it spills into other parts of your life, which could be detrimental.
One of the biggest fears a lot of people have is, oh my gosh, I'm struggling with this, or I'm not able to pray as I did before. I'm not able to participate as I did before in religious activities, or I feel disconnected from God or my faith. This doesn't mean necessarily that you've lost your faith. It often means that you're simply struggling and re-engaging it in light of a new experience, a spinal cord injury, which has turned your life upside down in other ways. It's also done that in terms of your spirituality, but it doesn't mean it's lost. I find that exploring how God is still active and present, can be present in people's lives, is helpful for those who want to explore issues around God. Folks, some people aren't comfortable with church anymore and aren't able to engage their faith like they did before. Some folks find comfort in nature or in art or in music. And those are often places where people can re-engage their tradition. But again, I always tell people that feeling that you've lost it might mean that it just doesn't look the same as it did before your injury.
It grew. My faith, I leaned on my faith, and I grew in my faith through this. And I was very blessed to have the foundation that I did in my faith to have that to lean on in something like this.
I would pray and feel like and praying for the right things, but I wasn't. And it was more of struggling with why God put me in that position and what his purpose was for it. And so I was still trying to figure it out and just go every day trying to get better with my faith. But there are definitely struggles sometimes with not knowing what's going on or feeling lost and not knowing what to do or what's next. So there's a struggle, but I feel like everybody has their own daily struggles with faith, no matter what's going on. So
I am a spiritual person. I believe in God, and after my injury, it initially, of course, and I think a lot of people go through this, you have that feeling of, okay, well, I'm going to be the one that's going to beat this. My injury isn't going to last, forever. I'm going to be, one of the exception that starts walking again magically. And so, you're praying and your faith is on high because you just like, if I pray hard enough, if I believe hard enough, I'm going to just be fine. And this isn't going to be reality. And then slowly but surely over time, things don't change. And then you kind of hit that crash where it's like, well, God's not listening to me, or none of this matters anyway. And then, you sort of lose a little faith. But I think over time, even past that point, you sort of balance back out and you probably end up back where you were.
I was, 22 when I was injured and loved to do my hair, loved to do my makeup. And that was something that I struggled with at first, confidence-wise, because I was in a neck brace, I had scars, it was just something that I didn't feel myself, I didn't look like myself, and I struggled with that for a long time until I was able to do more of those things again.
My worst thing that ever happened to me is shown no matter where I go. I can't hide it, right? So a lot of that hurt my confidence a lot, and I wasn't necessarily the most confident person in the world before, right? I'm 6'3", I'm a big guy, and I struggled with weight a little bit growing up, I was never necessarily obese, but I definitely struggled with my weight. And, with your abdominal muscles, it's easier to hide things like that. And now it's just kind of like, this is me, and it's not like I can really fake anything. I can't hide anything.
My confidence was shot from the very beginning. There's so much uncertainty about who you are anymore, and what you're capable of, and how people will see you. And you think about all the dreams and goals you had for your life before, and then you think about, okay, well, what about now? And you just don't have the same belief that you can do it. So I lost a lot of confidence. And I would also say, I would throw in there, I lost some self-esteem. You feel like you look like, you stand out like, kind of like a freak show or something. And especially when you get out of a center like Shepherd, where everybody's in a wheelchair and you feel like you're fit in. When you get in the community and you don't feel like you fit in, you don't feel as confident. And it's hard because you eventually really want to take your power back, but you still lack the confidence. So there's this struggle you have, especially with people around you that always want to help you and do it for you because they are assuming you can't do it. You kind of feel like you can't do it, but you got to push through that.
With a new injury, it's a new body, and I think self-esteem and how you carry yourself within your environment or with other people is completely shifted, right? And so having no self-esteem or really limited self-esteem is very normal. And the way I go about it is, if a person was going to judge you by the chair, do you really want to spend energy in that relationship moving forward? Or do you want to find people who no longer see you as just the chair? It's an accessory, right? Like if you wore a hat or you're wearing a scarf, it's something that you carry. It doesn't define you. And finding ways to kind of re-engage what made you who you were before the injury is important in finding some of your self-esteem and confidence, and also finding people who are able to kind of boost you up if you're really low.
If we think about any point in our life, confidence is something that we have to practice and that we have to build on. If when you were a younger child, if you took on some new activity, whether it was a new sport or you played piano or whatever it was that you did, the very first time that you did that, the second time, the third time, the fourth time, was not your best time. When you stuck at it, you got better at it. And when you got better at it, you got more confident at it. I sort of relate this to the notion of dating. Most people are not the most confident in dating, and this has nothing to do with your injury. This could be pre-injury. The more you put yourself out there, the more times that you're okay with being turned down, the more you build yourself up. And the more you build yourself up, the more you're going to put yourself out there. So if you look at this, again, like with activities, there may be something since your injury that you've wanted to try. Give yourself permission to try, but you also have to cut yourself some slack. That first time is not going to be the best time.
My accident, the way it happened, I kind of flipped over the vehicle, right? If I was to go under, obviously I'm a pretty big guy. I don't think there's any chance I would have made it out alive. I think about a lot of that stuff, right? Our different levels to spinal cord injuries, they come with certain challenges. So somebody that is a lower level of injury obviously is going to have a lot less of a problem with things than somebody that's a quadriplegic. I'm thankful that I have what I have for sure, right? But it's hard. It's kind of hard to stay in that 24/7.
Very grateful every day I try to be grateful for every little thing that I have at this point, because being at Shepherd Center doing rehab and you see people that are way worse than even your situation's bad, but you see people that are way worse off. So you see that, and you can't help but be grateful for the function you do have.
I'm grateful to be alive, first off. That's the first thing. I know it's cliche, but it's true. I'm grateful to, I'll say, be in a situation where I'm progressing daily. I'm getting stronger. People ask me, oh, you look great. They only look at the physical aspect of it. But I always say I'm a glass half full. I still have room to improve. Every day I learn something new about myself, my limitations, my strength, my weaknesses.
My relationship with my parents have definitely grown. My friends, and I am very grateful for that. I'm grateful to still be here. It was something that happened that, could have easily gone the other way, and I'm extremely grateful to still be here for sure.
This trauma, this accident, usually brings a lot of darkness into your life, right? And when there's darkness, it often also sheds lightness. What things that you're grateful for, right? I'm grateful that I have a wonderful spouse. I have a great partner. My kids are wonderful. Or I'm just really happy to be alive. And I also think that lightness also makes you kind of reflect on what you might want to shed more light on, right? You kind of start reevaluating your values. So maybe I was a workaholic, and now I see how grateful I am for my family, and I didn't spend too much time with them. So maybe I'm going to make that more of a value, more of a priority that I spend more energy in once I leave, or when I go home, or when I'm at home.
I think what we have to remember is in tragedy, it isn't just about sad feelings or angry feelings or frustrating feelings. Again, remember that it's feelings across the board of anything. So I think it's common that there are moments of gratitude, and for some people, there are a lot of moments of gratitude. For some people, there are a few moments of gratitude. I would say when you have those, jump on those and figure out, how do I build more of those?
Every day, I would find myself either mad, sad, quiet. I would stare out in space, and I would tell her this, said, that well, you've been through something traumatic, and it's gonna be like that. You shouldn't deny those feelings. You should allow it to come out. But I would try to keep those internal, without having to express it, because as a man, you're taught not to express yourself in the emotional side of things. And I found myself snapping on people. I found myself isolating myself, no motivation, no zeal for life, same thing. Just not wanting to do anything. Just like, some days I wanted to give up. No lie, some days I just said, you know what, I'd rather just, I'll say, ascend and not have to deal with it, because I know I had a long journey ahead. And I'm glad that my mindset has changed, but it was daily that my emotions changed. Even now, my emotions still change. From yesterday, I was depressed yesterday. Now, I'm okay. Tomorrow, I might be something different. So it's okay to embrace those changes, but you got to know how to control it somehow.
I think it's definitely daily, sometimes even hourly. I mean, something will happen and it's very frustrating. You know, you have plans to go to your friend's house, and then like my blood pressure gets low or my blood pressure gets really high, and it just completely makes me feel like, how am I going to get through? You know, like, how am I going to get through that? And why do I have to change my plans because I have to deal with all these other little things with my health? And it just made me feel sad.
Sometimes I'll go months where I feel like everything, like I'm on a high, everything's going great. And then you might go through a week or two stretch of whether it's bowel issues or you start having little bladder issues that just cause a bunch of inconvenience that make you feel like just things are going horribly wrong. And so that's where I try to keep the highs in perspective when going through those low moments, to try to minimize those low times and try to keep that so there's not such a up and down, constant up and down.
I would say the first 2 to 3 years, I dealt with a lot of just emotions, just always up and down, easy to anger, crying a lot, and that was definitely something I experienced a lot in the first few years. I eventually went back to work, started driving, moved and got, moved into my own place. And so that gave me, again, kind of talking about the confidence again, that gave me something to live for and something to feel like I was, kind of back to life again. So that took away the feeling of, that kind of, I guess would say, helped the emotional ups and downs, and it kind of leveled me out. So I don't find that now I'm quite as, I go through things like being angry or depressed quite as much. But you do struggle through it, sometimes it's lonely. I'm not dating anymore, have no prospects. But then, as a friend pointed out to me, she's like, most single women on 2 legs ain't got no prospects, so I guess I shouldn't feel bad. Who knows?
I wish I can give you a roadmap for how you should be sort of dealing with this injury. There is none, and it sucks. It really does. But at the same time, I think is sort of empowering, right? Like, you don't have to follow this sort of roadmap of how you should be feeling. It's your own journey, and knowing when to seek out help is the important part, right? And so for me, when I tell my patients, they're like, Dr. Rahman, I just want to cry. Okay, why don't you cry? Well, I shouldn't feel this way. Why shouldn't you? Your life turned upside down with this injury. So be productive about it, right? So set up aside, I'm going to mope for this morning, and then have something in the afternoon that you're going to be productive, even if it's getting out of bed and washing your face. So not sitting in that moment. And why I say that is that oftentimes when you ask us professionals, right, when do I need to start worrying about my emotions? It's when it starts hindering your day-to-day functioning, right? When you're unable to get out of bed, you're unable to do sort of the basic task that we usually do. That's when I get concerned. So allowing yourself to mope and then finding a point that you're going to do something productive is really important.
I think it is not only common for people to have emotions across the board. I think it's not only normal for people to have emotions across the board. I fully expect people to do that. As a matter of fact, I'm more worried about somebody who doesn't than I am somebody who's bouncing all over like a roller coaster. Because again, what you have to remember is sudden changes in life that we look at as devastating, or they're tragic, or they're really hard for us to handle. It's less normal to be just like this. It's more normal to be like a Super Bowl that's bouncing all over the place. For additional resources, please visit our website.